Thanks to everybody. Thanks to the Soup staff. One of the nice parts about today is I didn't have to do anything except show up. And I love it. I have a wonderful staff behind the scenes. Many of you, will not even know who they are. There's so many folks just helped out behind the scenes. And then we had all the panelists and speakers. And this was kind of the first time we've done it at this rate of a breadth of and differences of how we presented. And it was fantastic. I'm very proud of the entire staff for what they put together today. Thank you to FCW. All ran very smoothly. You helped us put this together. I can't thank you enough for that. Thank you for the attendees. Thank you for them. And then finally, and certainly not least, thank you to the panelists who are not on the Soup staff. The Soup staff had to be here. You did not. And I really, I don't usually, I'll be honest, I don't usually sit through an entire day of a conference. I usually, zone out. I didn't zone out today. It's our conference, but also just the speakers, the topics, the information being given was such a good combination. So I'm not going to go back over, try to recap it all. I think the key here is it's a starting point. As we've mentioned, we hope to do more with this in May, but it is such a wonderful start. You all really did a good job of indicating where different parts of the government are. I try to explain to people that this is not a Soup event. I'm sure we have some Soup stuff to it. Sure, we're sponsoring it, but it was meant to be a broader government and industry discussion. And I appreciate the fact that it did become that. One of the questions we were asked was, why use Soup? This brings up one of the reasons to use Soup. We're a program that runs a contract, not a contract that is run by a program. And that's a key to me, in that my job is not just to have the contracts work. My job is to make the program work, make the idea of acquisition work, go beyond just the contract view. So doing something of this nature is second nature to us, of trying to go beyond just running these contracts. That changes your philosophy when you interact in that manner. And the other key part that shows up here about Soup is that combination of industry and government. We didn't just have government experts on here. We didn't just have industry experts. We had both. And I think it's important to hear both sides and to understand both sides. And so I can't emphasize enough how much that has meant, and it's been a part of Soup's DNA from the very beginning. So we really want to continue that in the future, and I think that permeates much of how we operate and makes us the best of the best. I firmly believe. So that's a few things there. I wanted to mention to the point about getting feedback. Definitely feedback about today. Let us know if there are questions that we did not get to. I have a few more I'm going to pick out that I saw earlier today that we didn't get to, but I'm sure I'm not going to get to them all. And there'll be things you'll think of afterwards. Please either use the comment form that FCW will be sending out, or send a note to help@soup.nasa.gov. But also, what are topics that we missed? What are things that we could add in May when we do this again? And we do it for, in together, again, possibly multi-day, trying to make it a bigger government-wide, industry-wide event. So we're looking for your feedback in that regard. And now, are there other topics that you think, well, that was really nice, but I wish Soup would put together something that talked about this? We'd be happy to hear about other ideas that we could do along these lines. Obviously, supply chain is extremely important, but there are also other important issues going on out there. To all that, let me add that I'm trying to see what notes we had there. So there was a question about ISO standards and ISO mandates. And I didn't get a chance, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just to note how Soup has handled 20243. We've been a part of that, as noted, actually with Don Davison, who actually was the original sponsor of that standard. And when we got to near the end of it, I realized that it was a very important standard to push people towards, but we had the chicken and the egg issue of industry wasn't going to get certified if customers didn't ask for it, and customers weren't going to ask for it if industry wasn't certified. So I took the long view of trying to start the process very slowly, get some companies who I knew would be interested in it anyway, get them rolling, get them self-certified, get more self-certified, start getting to the point where we can start telling to our customers, and we are there now, this is something you may want to consider. You can add this to your checkbox of items that you want to maybe not require, but add as a possible evaluation criteria. And our next step, yes, it's not third party for the most part now. It's self-certified. We want to get to third party, but there again, chicken and egg. So now we got 30 companies who are self-certified. That should prime them to be able to get third party certified. And now our customers will hopefully start asking for that when it's key. They'll always need it. You're building that submarine and you're putting an IT system in it. Not only do you want the bolts to be good, you want that IT system to be good. You may want to require a fully certified, third party certified. So we are moving in that direction. There was a question about SOUP 6. It is way too early for me to say what we require in SOUP 6, but you can certainly guess that supply chain will be a part of that. And we'll just decide exactly where it fits once we get farther along. We will, let's see, what else did I want to say? The other part is there was a question that apparently came in after I got off the chat. So if I believe I get it correct, is there anything on the horizon to update any of the tools at all in terms of look and feel? Oh, that's a wonderful question because I have a wonderful answer. I'm forming a new team. My background for coming up at 44 years at NASA is customer is actually customer interface. I was doing that from the very beginning in the 70s and have been very much a part of my DNA in terms of what I care about from the beginning. I have a personal idea that websites today are pretty much the same as they were 20 years ago and need to change. I am looking to find a way to change them. Not just SOUP. I think big. We are looking to build a team and have started doing that to use SOUP, but also to test some ideas, but also test new ideas. Not new ideas already out there. We're talking about, as I like to call it, the ideas that have not yet been tried, or have been tried but have not yet been fully developed. So we're looking to overhaul the SOUP look and feel. We're trying to overhaul how customers interact and provide a new methodology. So watch for that. It's just starting off. So I'm not going to say more of that yet because we're still thinking about that. But in a year or so, you might start seeing some things from it. So I think that covered most of the pieces. Are there other questions that you have?
There are a couple, and you did a great job. You can take over my job and moderate all the questions. But a couple that either came in earlier, came in through the other channels. These are related. One was specific of, is SOUP looking to make Open Group a contractual mandate for SOUP suppliers in the future?
So an interesting note about that. We've been a part of Open Group even before it was Open Group. They're actually having the 25th anniversary celebration next week. But they were around as ex-Open in the early 90s. And interesting enough, it was one of the requirements was Unix. Unix is owned by Open Group, and it was the first RFP in the government that required an ex-Open certification. So we have a long history with Open Group because they do much more than supply chain. They're very big in the architecture world and security. They still own the Unix trademark and other key items, which I'm sorry, I'm forgetting to the Open Group. But obviously supply chain is important. We did not require it in SOUP 5. We did include it as Darlene noted. Supply chain was a consideration, evaluation criteria that we certainly at the very least will include. Open Group was not called out as required again, but that would help that process. How's it going to look in SOUP 6? Still way too early. We have to see what the landscape is in terms of where that leads us. But if you can read tea leaves at all and see how much we're pushing the ISO standard and trying to get ourselves in there, you can assume that will be probably a good part of what we're doing. I can't say mandate though.
Sure. Sure. And then a related but more general question. And this came from an industry attendee. And I just want to read it verbatim because I think it gets to the larger sentiment, which is, I'm hearing about many SCRM requirements that are coming, but would like some sense for the timing and phasing of requirements. We're trying to be ahead of the curve, but we'll need to know which requirements are in place in order to gather the info from our suppliers in a timely, accurate manner. And I know that the SOUP program doesn't want to be the the unilateral voice on what's required when, but for industry that's trying to get a sense of what where this is headed, do you have advice on how they can try and get ahead of that curve?
So one note that I made near the end here is because there was a similar question about supply chain risk management plans, which I think really speaks to that. Like, because there is this requirement now that government's supposed to ask for those plans,
right?
But nobody quite knows what those plans are. Yeah. So I'm throwing this out to you specifically, and to John Johnson and the other people planning for May. Let's make that part of the discussion. What is what makes a good plan, and how what does industry think would make a good plan? What is government looking for in a supply chain plan? And see if we can come up with some of the possibilities. It is such a wide range of possibilities. We have. I mentioned the Bolt story. I have other fun stories. One of them is the customer who says, "How do we guarantee that everybody writing software for my the software package are Americans?" Well, you can try to write a plan like that. It just is not going to get any results. So that's too far on that end. On the other end, you can say, "Well, okay, I've asked for the ISO standard. Is that a supply chain plan?" It's part of one, but as we heard from other panelists, there are many pieces to this puzzle, and we don't have a single one. Don made that point. There's never going to be a checkbox. This is supply chain solved. What we hope to do is to maybe help inform the customers what a standard view, a recommended view. We don't have that yet, but maybe we can work. Maybe we can help that process out, and in May, maybe we can have some of that. I would say for now, read the tea leaves of the RFQs. What are the RFQs coming out? Watch DoD. DoD is going to be a lead in this in terms of their requirements because they tend to have more put on them by their authorization process, annual. Trying to think of the word. Is it NDAA?
Yep.
So that will lead it, but the government is still very much still trying to find its way. I think I think that this is a case. I would encourage industry to also feedback. Let me just point out give it that opportunity since it was an industry question. And I'm glad we had Seagate here and consultants and others from industry. One of the more frustrating parts for me as a government person is when I know industry has answers and they won't share them. And I know there's proprietary questions, and I know, you don't want to show your hand and all that. Sometimes it just helps if we know what you think. Don't wait for us to tell you, because the government will tell you eventually, and they may tell you the wrong thing then. So it doesn't. It's not a bad thing to find ways to share, and I would hope that we talked about trust earlier. SOUP does try to be a trustworthy partner to both sides. We would certainly like to hear from industry what they think best practices are. That's why we have the open group, interaction. Why we worked on that supply chain, because I learned a whole lot about industry because I was sitting in a room where it was mostly industry talking to industry, not always agreeing, which is also very interesting, but getting a sense of where the different alignments are. So, so help us, help the government. Let us know, and then we can build that into how we respond to them.
Excellent. Well, you anticipated what was going to be my last question, which is, what would you most like to know from the attendees here? If they, could put a question in their ear as they think about filling out that feedback survey or reaching out. And I think you just covered that for what you'd like to hear from industry. But let me pose the same question for your government customers. Is there a question you'd want to pose to the to the buyers across government who use Soup, something you'd like them to think about, or some feedback you'd like them to send your team's way here in the coming weeks?
Well, certainly the plan. If anybody out there is listening and has worked on a supply chain plan and think you have an idea or have questions of, is this the right thing to add? I would like to start building that knowledge base inside of Soup. So we're not going to come out with this is the plan, but if we have some ideas, we might be able to help other agencies out with their questions in that regard. We always push to be realistic and practical. And always remember that if you ask for something from industry that costs them money, that means it's going to cost you money. I think sometimes we forget about that in government. So that's the risk management piece. That's the part of managing what your expectations are. So keeping that in mind, what is it that we can do there? Certainly, you asked it. I think either you or somebody asked about the tools, and are these tools working for you? We just updated the quote process to make it much clearer when things don't meet requirements that are put by the customer. I think it's working well, but if I don't hear otherwise, I may be wrong. So certainly we always look for feedback. It's what keeps us rolling. As we start rolling out new features over the next year and over the next 5 years, which is the plan for my new vision for where we're going. Always know that we want to hear from you, the customer. Because that will drive what we do next.
Very good. Well, I think we're going to leave it there. But Joanne Wojtek, thank you so much for being part of today's event and for being such a great partner in helping to conceive of it and put it together over the last several months. I learned a ton today. And I'm looking forward to the next iteration in the spring.
Thank you.